Running on the plains of western Ukraine, outside the small village of Babin, I don't know that I was necessarily searching for anything, but I think that all runs are a search of some kind. On this particular day, it was about 90 degrees outside and the heat was rippling off the ground. As far as the eye could see, there were these vast, rolling, golden hills, broken up only by the Serpentine Dniester River that was carving its way through this expanse. I was not much of a runner at this point in my life, so I did not have any of the traditional running accoutrements. I had on brown work boots that were 2 sizes too big because I was fairly self-conscious about my extremely small feet. I had on a pair of what we called Euchre jeans, which were knockoff Ukrainian jeans that could be purchased very cheaply in any market stall anywhere in Ukraine. Mine had green lightning bolts on the butt. I was not wearing a shirt because it was so hot. I had gunmetal spectacles on, and I had a faux hawk that was actually a bad European mullet, but I had no idea at this point because I'd been in country too long. After about an hour of running, I was down by the river and I realized that I was hot and I was tired and I was in need of getting back to the village. This was not a good situation to be in, so I decided to opt for a shortcut. So I started to make my way up a small trench-like canyon. Now, to give you an image, if you've ever seen a Lord of the Rings movie, this was a Shire-like setting. So I'm winding my way up this little canyon along a goat path next to a singular streamlet. And I come across a few animals and they eye me warily. And frankly, I'm rather afraid of livestock, but that didn't matter because livestock meant people and people meant the village, and the village meant, taking care of my thirst and getting some rest. Well, my instincts proved to be correct because shortly thereafter I went around a bend and I entered a idyllic, beautiful little dell. At the center of this dell there was a solitary tree and an improvised fire circle. The seats were made up of old logs and tires and I think a car bumper or two. And sitting on one of these was your traditional Ukrainian village farming man. An old-time man, leathery skin, huge hands. He was wearing similar brown work boots, although I'm fairly certain that his fit correctly. He had on black woolen pants despite the heat, and they were tattered and well-worn. He had on a white linen shirt that was equally tattered, and his chest hair was sprouting out at the neck. And he had on what we would call maybe a longshoreman or a newsies cap pulled low over his eyes, but I could see that he was squinting at me hard because spider webs of wrinkles were forming in his leathery skin at the corners of his eyes. Anyway, we'd noticed each other, so I knew that an exchange needed to take place. So I walked over to him and, being rather bold, I decided to go with the traditional Easter greeting. This is around Easter time, of course. So I say, "Christos voskres," rather dramatically. Christ is risen. And he replies much less enthusiastically, rather suspiciously actually. "Vistino voskres." He is risen indeed. Well, it wasn't the most exciting exchange, so I thought, hey, I've done my bit. I can be on my way. So I started to go when he suddenly started to speak at me rapid fire in a language called Syrzhyk, which is a kind of Ukrainian-Russian slang thing. Well, I was never much of a linguist, regardless of all the training. I got about as far as asking for food and where the toilet was, so I was shaking my head, no, I don't understand, nor will I ever understand, and I was psychically trying to communicate this to the man. It wasn't working out so well, so I started to turn to leave when suddenly he grabs me, turns me towards him, and slaps me on the shoulder. Well, I'm thinking, all right, I'm about to be murdered in the middle of this beautiful dell in rural Ukraine. He's going to float my body down to the Dniester River and I'll disappear forever. But at that moment, a word broke through the haze of not understanding that I got. And it's a weird word for a non-linguist to understand. The word was Bog. Bog means God. He was slapping me on the first tattoo that I ever got, a Celtic cross right here on my shoulder. While this realization is happening, he removes his shirt to reveal an old man's body, but also hard and sturdy like a farmer's and totally leathery from the sun. And it's dappled with faded blue tattoos, the kinds done in war zones and in prison cells. These are amateur tattoos that mean a lot and have been done by your buddies and cleaned with vodka and gasoline. Well, I thought, this is a hard man. But he was drawing my attention to one in particular. And on his arm, he had the word Vogue. And suddenly I got it. God. God. Men of God we are. Hallelujah. I'm saved. And in this moment of, rapture, he blesses me. Well, we had lots of training in Ukraine, but nothing addressed this particular situation. So not knowing what to do, I went with my instincts, which was to bless him right back. A smile spread across this man's face that overtook his entire body, and suddenly I was wrapped up in a massive hug. So there we were, the young, impressionable, kind of silly American boy and the old Ukrainian village farmer. We are flesh on flesh. We are sweat on sweat. We are stench on stench. It is not a pretty sight, but it is the essence of tenderness. It is brotherly love. I went on that run that day, not necessarily searching for anything, but I definitely found something. I found an old man and probably the best hug that I'm ever going to get. I found happiness. Thank you.